我死不了，现在不要的躲哪里？
While Bloomberg disclosed that Beijing had earlier imported at least 2.4 million tons of soybeans from Brazil, Japanese media pointed out that not only soybeans, but also cotton and wheat purchases from the United States have been reduced by mainland China. In response to the United States' measures to prevent other countries from becoming reproduction bases for Chinese products, the Chinese Ministry of Commerce issued a warning on Monday, the 21st, that Beijing will take reciprocal countermeasures against countries that cooperate with the United States. Beijing sharply reduces its purchases of American agricultural products. The Nikkei Chinese website reported on Monday, the 21st, that the March trade statistics released by the General Administration of Customs of the Communist Party of China on the 20th showed that, in terms of US dollars, cotton imported from the United States decreased by 90% compared with the same period last year. The wheat import value from January to March was only about 1% of the same period last year. Since mid-January this year, China has stopped making reservations for purchases of soybeans and corn produced in the United States and has increased purchases from Brazil and other countries. According to the reservations for foreign soybean and corn purchases announced by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, mainland China's purchases have been zero since January 16th, before U.S. President Trump took office. According to the report, in 2017, soybeans produced in the United States accounted for nearly 40% of China's total imports, and by 2024, this had dropped to 20%. In 2017, soybeans produced in Brazil accounted for 50% of China's imports, and now this has reached 70%. As a result, the price of Brazilian soybeans has risen. The report pointed out that from late March to early April this year, there were many days when the price was 10% higher than the Chicago futures price, which is an international indicator. In the past, in early spring, the price of Brazilian soybeans was often lower than the Chicago futures price. The report mentioned that the sense of crisis among American farmers has expanded, and Caleb Ragland, chairman of the American Soybean Association, urged the Trump administration to negotiate and reach an agreement with mainland China as soon as possible. Brazil is expected to have the highest soybean harvest in history in 2025. Mauricio Buffon, chairman of the Brazilian Soybean Growers Association, emphasized that Brazil's status as the world's largest soybean supplier is improving. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce warns other countries that if they cooperate with the United States, they will face reciprocal countermeasures. The Chinese Ministry of Commerce issued a warning early on the 21st regarding the United States' measures to prevent Chinese products from circumventing U.S. tariffs by relocating production sites, saying, if this happens, China will never accept it and will resolutely take reciprocal countermeasures. The Wall Street Journal reported last week that the Trump administration plans to use the ongoing tariff negotiations to pressure U.S. trading partners to restrict their trade with China. The report said that the Trump administration's idea is to require these countries to prevent China from transporting goods through their territory, prevent Chinese companies from locating in their territories to circumvent U.S. tariffs, and not absorb cheap Chinese industrial products in their own economies in negotiations with more than 70 U.S. trading partners. The Wall Street Journal pointed out that these measures are aimed at weakening the already shaky Chinese economy and forcing Beijing to be at a disadvantage at the negotiating table before a possible meeting between Trump and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Given the different levels of connection between countries in the Chinese economy, the specific requirements may vary greatly. Taiwan's Premier To Jung-tai said a few days ago that the government will severely crack down on mainland goods laundering their origins through Taiwan and strictly prevent mainland goods from being dumped in Taiwan at low prices, emphasizing that Taiwan cannot become a breach in world trade. Taiwan's Ministry of Economic Affairs also said that it will take specific actions such as monitoring trade volume and supervising high-risk manufacturers, tightening penalties for violations, cooperating with the Ministry of Finance to accelerate the investigation of anti-dumping cases, and strengthening publicity to the industry to prevent mainland goods from illegally transshipping through Taiwan. Many foreign media recently reported that the spokesperson of the Chinese Ministry of Commerce said that they had noticed the relevant reports. The Ministry of Commerce's press release stated, "It should be particularly pointed out that China firmly opposes any party reaching a deal at the expense of China's interests. If this happens, China will never accept it and will resolutely take countermeasures in equal measure." It also called on all countries to strengthen unity and coordination, work together to respond, and jointly resist unilateral bullying. The U.S. tightens control on China, and Nvidia reportedly suspends the supply of China Special Edition graphics cards. The U.S. government has further tightened restrictions on chip exports to China, following the recent inclusion of Nvidia, H20 and AMD MY308 chips in the control list, which requires export licenses to be applied for before they can be sold to China. The latest market news reports that Nvidia's China Special Edition flagship graphics card, the RTX 5090D, will be suspended from supply, but Nvidia has not officially announced the relevant information. Legal experts pointed out that Nvidia RTX 50 series graphics cards collaborate with Taiwanese manufacturers, including Asus, MSI, and Gigabyte. If the Nvidia 5090D is suspended from supply to China, the impact on Taiwanese manufacturers will be limited, and they can continue to benefit from the new product effect of the Nvidia RTX 50 series graphics cards.
In recent years, China's economy has continued to decline. Impacted by the real estate industry, the banking sector is now in crisis. Recently, several bank branches in China have faced difficulties with cash withdrawals, leading to dissatisfaction among depositors. Regarding the reduction of bank card transfer limits, many users believe that banks are deliberately making it harder for funds to flow out by setting such limits. According to a recent report by Shell Finance of the Beijing News, many bank card users reported that their bank card limits were restricted without their knowledge. Some people visited bank branches to increase their credit limits in order to use their bank cards normally, but some cardholders ultimately gave up using them altogether. Since the second half of this year, numerous banks have issued announcements stating they will adjust the non-counter transaction limits of some personal bank settlement accounts. These announcements mentioned financial institutions such as the Bank of China, China Construction Bank, Agricultural Bank of China, and Jiangxi Bank. Regarding the reduction of bank card transfer limits, many users believe this is a deliberate move by banks to prevent funds from flowing out by setting strict limits. However, bank personnel explained that the measure primarily aims to prevent telecommunications fraud. Despite this, all affected bank card users reported that their non-counter transfer limits were lowered without notification, and the bank did not send SMS notifications became a common complaint. One affected user, Li Yun, said she did not expect her salary card to be suddenly restricted. In July this year, she originally planned to withdraw reimbursement funds from the Bank of China, tens of thousands of yuan, but both the transfer and ATM withdrawal failed because the daily transfer limit was exceeded. Unexpectedly, another Jiangxi Bank Class 1 card under her name, primarily used for mortgage payments, was also restricted in July and August. Li Yun had used these two bank cards for many years without previously encountering any transfer or ATM withdrawal limits. However, both banks had now set a daily mobile transfer limit of 2,000 yuan on her cards without notifying her. Li Yun said, "The Bank of China staff initially told me to go to the branch with my ID to handle it. But when I arrived at the branch near my home, they said I needed to visit the branch where I opened the account." She couldn't complete the process that day because the branch was closed, and it took her a month to successfully increase her credit limit. According to a report by Shanghai radio and television station Canton News on the 14th, recently, some bank card users reported that their personal bank card transfer limits were reduced without their knowledge. Some users said they could not even transfer 1,000 yuan. These customers believe that banks are limiting non-counter transactions to prevent funds from leaving. In January this year, Zhupai News reported that a woman in Pingdingshan City, Henan Province, said her sister had transferred money to her and asked her to withdraw 5,000 yuan for a New Year's red envelope, but she encountered issues while withdrawing the money at Zhongyuan Bank. Ms. Wang, the individual involved, said that the staff initially asked her to download an anti-fraud app, and she cooperatively answered all their questions. However, they began asking more personal questions, including where her sister worked and where she had worked previously, and even asked her to prove her sister was a biological relative. After calling the police, it took nearly 2 hours to complete the withdrawal. Similarly, according to Poster News, a woman in Jiangxi posted on social media that she went to a bank with 100,000 yuan in cash for a fixed deposit, but the bank staff unexpectedly asked about the origin of the money. The woman said she thought, "Why does it matter where my money comes from? Just follow my instructions." She felt it made her look like she had stolen the money. When she asked why they questioned her, they responded that it was bank policy. In response, some netizens commented, "The banking system really needs reform. The service attitude varies greatly. When depositing money, they treat you like a VIP, but when withdrawing, it's a different story."